Olá, bem-vindos à Igreja no Mundo, o programa da Fundação AIS Ajuda à Igreja que Sofre. Eu sou Paulo Ado e hoje vamos ver um filme que é o resultado de um estudo de uma universidade americana, com o apoio precisamente da Fundação AIS, sobre a perseguição aos cristãos no mundo e qual tem sido a resposta dos cristãos, das comunidades cristãs, a essa perseguição. Vamos ver.
You can call it hell on the earth. Always they torture you, they beat you.
Churches being broken, houses being burned, there was a huge amount of rapes.
We have this public image of India as peaceful and pluralistic. It doesn't compute for there to be this kind of violence there.
There is no safety in Iraq, not for family, not for me, not for children.
ମୁଁ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମୁଣ୍ଡିଆ ମାରିକି ଛାଡ଼ିଦିଅ, ମୋର ସ୍ୱାମୀକୁ ଛାଡ଼ିଦିଅ, ମୋ ପିଲା ଦିଟା ଧରି କେମିତି କ'ଣ କରିବି ବୋଲି ବହୁତ କାନ୍ଦିଲି।
It's a very Darwinian process in the end, and that's what we're seeing, and we're seeing it at its most vicious right now.
Are Christians being disproportionately victimized? Are they the victims of a genocide that makes them maybe particularly worthy objects of our attention?
The persecution concerns our own survival.
There is no more appropriate time for this conference. On this very day, Christians will be killed, exiled, find their property and houses of worship destroyed, and face humiliating discrimination in countries around the world.
The Under Caesar Sword Project is an effort to study systematically and globally the kind of responses that Christian communities make towards persecution. What do they do when they're under this kind of pressure and repression?
Some people will say it's ethnic or religious cleansing, not genocide. These, I think, are quibbles. The important thing is a massive humanitarian catastrophe is in front of us, and it is inextricably related, again, to the religious identity of very vulnerable Christians.
The whole Middle East is without exception engulfed by a nightmare that seems to have no end and that undermine the very existence of Christians in many countries of the region.
The early church was comprised of 5 ancient patriarchates, Rome in the west, and then 4 in the east, Antioch, Alexandria, Jerusalem, and Constantinople. And those are all in danger of disappearing. They are literally living in an at-risk condition of great vulnerability.
A century ago, 1/3 of the Istanbul population was non-Muslim, which would mean Greeks first, Greek Orthodox, then Armenians, then Jews. Today it is less than 1%, very tiny communities. How did this happen? Well, Turkey got rid of its Christian minorities to a great extent, unfortunately. by population exchanges, by expelling them.
What we see in Turkish-occupied Cyprus is really the erasure of the Christian presence. Churches demolished, all of the iconography associated with the early church stripped out of these churches, really a perverse effort to erase the historical footprint of the Christians of Turkey. There has been a growing discourse in Turkey about the conversion of the great Church of the Holy Wisdom of Hagia Sophia into a functioning mosque. The largest Christian structure up until the Cathedral of Notre Dame was built. And if that structure is to function as a religious site, it should function as a site for which it was built and intended, a Christian site that is part of the ecumenical patriarchate of Constantinople.
The state has to accelerate its reforms. It used to be a very polyphonic country, and then it could be again. We go to the state, to the ministries, to the bureaucracy, and we claim or we explain our issues together. And we are so few now. So the solidarity in building up new ideas is essential.
Şu anda yaklaşık 30 kadar kişi kilisemize düzenli olarak katılıyor. Gizli duvarlar arkasında bir inanç yaşamaktansa gerçekten bu lütuftan, Tanrı'nın bu lütfundan bütün insanların haberdar olmasını arzuluyoruz. Ve tabii ki bu bazı kesimleri rahatsız etti. Bu 13 kişiden ikisinin 2 yıl boyunca kilisemize katılan kişilerden olduğunu öğrendim. Hristiyan olduklarını söylüyorlardı. Ama aslında benim yaşamımla ilgili her detayı kayıt altına alıyorlarmış. Bir seminerimiz vardı. Hristiyan inancı ile ilgili tabii ki. Ve o gün biz bütün il protokolünü davet ettik. Ve o sabah aslında polisler yani bu kişileri yakaladılar. Çevremizde bulunan bazı insanların bu tip beni öldürmeye yönelik bir girişimi planladıklarını fark etmiş polis güçleri.
Christian communities have long focused on coping strategies in terms of making life livable on a daily basis. And that has meant largely staying off the radar. And by that I mean simply trying to do whatever is necessary in order to stay within these very strict limits of the law.
Tabii ki güvenliğimiz için bir kamera sistemimiz var. Böylece bütün bu alanı kamera sistemiyle izleyebiliyoruz. Binamızda camlarımızı korumak için alt taraflara demirler yaptırdık. Ve aynı zamanda taşlardan korunmak için üst katta daha net görebileceğiniz teller koydurduk. Kolay mı? Hayır. Tabii ki rahat bir şekilde ibadet edebilmek, özgür bir şekilde kendi inancımızı yaşayabilmek arzusundayız. Bununla beraber ben şükrediyorum ki cemaatimizdeki hiç kimse kendi inancını saklamıyor.
The non-Muslim minorities, we are reaching 200,000 people. So why we have to be very vibrant and active? It's very simple, because we are part of this country. We are the heritage of this history of this country. We try to explain ourselves, to dialogue with people, because they don't know us. If you see, we can see that there are millions of people in Turkey that they never experienced any connection, any dialogue with any non-Muslim person. And we try to explain again from the beginning that we're not foreigners, that we are not strangers. The blessing of the waters, the Epiphany, as we call it, it is a very special day, and we came with all our bishops and our people and our parishioners and all members of the larger community. There were Turkish Muslims, Alevites, Armenians. We are very happy because everything goes smoothly, even if today Turkey and the countries around, they are facing several problems. We, in a very secure way, we have celebrated today. Definitely 15, 20 years ago, this could be impossible. We still have a long way to go because we see what's happening in the Middle East. First Iraq and then Syria, and we have so millions of people, refugees coming in Turkey, of course. It seems that for the last centuries, freedom for Christians is a limited understanding in the region.
In 1914, 1922, in Turkey, the Christians, 20% of them were forced out, and many of them fled to Syria and Iraq. And today, they're being driven out of Syria and Iraq, and they're finding refuge in Turkey. Now, so far, the Turks have been extraordinarily accepting. 2 million refugees.
When there is chaos in a country mostly composed of Islamic majority, minorities, especially Christians, are very much vulnerable.
I decided to leave Iraq because there is no safety for my children. And I can come to Turkey, because Turkey is better. Homeland, to return to homeland is bigger problem. Now, in this time, it's bigger problem.
يعني نشعر احنا يعني مثل مطرودين اجينا. اخذنا البنات، يعني احنا سمعنا بانه ياخذون البنات، والاهم شيء هي بناتي همينا.
They came to me and tell me you should give us money or kill you or hurt your family.
او اي شيء، المهم مستقبل اولادي يبدون دراستهم ويستمرون بحياتهم.
Milletin ilk sığınacak yer Türkiye. Bundan sonra Avrupa'nın çıkış kapısı burayı görüyorlar. Yani oradaki kendi memleketleri, kendi evleri, kendi okulları, kendi kiliseleri daha çok. Yani bizim elimizden geldikçe onlara her şey yardım edebiliyoruz. Yani sanki orada yaşıyorlarmış gibi bir şeyle yaşatıyoruz burada.
It isn't everybody who has fled. You do have incidents of the Assyrians, for example, around the Khabur River in Syria that took up arms, have formed a militia. But those are small responses.
One of the remarkable things that we found among Christian communities around the world is how few of them have resorted to violence as the answer. We want to be careful not to judge communities who have made that difficult decision that maybe armed defense is the only way for them to survive. But we do note that in the global profile, armed violence is very rare.
Christians have spontaneously responded to their own suffering by enlarging their concern and compassion and work for justice to include others as well. It's important because that's what their faith calls them to, but it's important too in that I think many Christians realize that the only world in which they're going to be more secure is a world in which everyone is more secure.
Our social mission helped to reach out to the heart of the majority community, especially its poor. Like Pope Francis, we become the voice of the voiceless from all the communities, especially all the poor from every community.
Shabazz was my younger brother. He dedicated 28 years of his life to foster the ideal of human equality, interfaith harmony, and mutual love and forgiveness. He died only a few meters in front of their home. My mother heard the thunder of bullets killing my brother. Even today, it's impossible to imagine her pain. But to my amazement, my mom told me without hesitating that his mission should continue and I was the right person for this job. She explained that she had forgiven the killers of my brother and she was free from a desire for the revenge or retaliation against them. Later, she reminded me that Shabazz's way of life was rooted in forgiveness, love, following the way of our Jesus Christ.
My imprisonment is 32 months inside the container. There is no enough air, it's not clean. They ask you to deny your faith. So I refuse.
The Pew Forum reports that 76% of the world's population lives in a country where religious freedom is seriously curtailed. In India, hundreds of Christians have been attacked by Hindu extremists whose violent efforts have been encouraged by the rise to power of the Hindu nationalist governments.
Christians have been around in India from at least the 3rd century. There was a long period, a millennium or more, of relatively peaceful coexistence between Christians and other religious people in India.
There was a huge embrace of Christians in this country. The Christian missionaries and the schools they set up. Very commonly, Christmas was celebrated by all of India. It's been a kind of secular practice, almost a celebration.
The Western world generally have a notion of Hinduism and Buddhism as religions of peace, yoga, meditation, sort of friendliness. And this is a problem of perception.
India as a democracy is a constitutionally secular place. The state is not supposed to be involved in religion in a big way, but in reality, the state has always been involved, particularly in favor of the Hindu religion.
If you go into a police station, you will find the pictures of gods and goddesses, garland, and so those spaces are very often marked out as at least quasi-Hindu spaces, and Christians maybe feel that they are not fully represented.
It has been a slow, consistent process over decades. What is happening now did not happen in one day. It was a preparation of tens of years, of a very slow poisoning of minds across India.
Since about 1998, there's been a real rise in incidents of violence against Christians. The Kandhamal riots were really of a far more widespread and far more significant nature.
The crowd, maybe about 300 to 400 people, came in the morning. And from this spot itself, they started attacking the people, breaking the houses and burning the houses. And the violence continued all throughout the day.
सेटा पे मु से माने घर आसिक घर भांगला पर्यंत मु कुआडे भी जाई नथिली जेतबे क्रिश्चियन मां माने समस्त इयाडे सेडे धाइगले मु पछरे पिला दीटा धरकी गली.
In Kandamal, there was a huge Christian purge, a lot of killings, a lot of rape, churches being broken and looted.
मो समस्त को मुंडिया मारी के छाड़ी दे मोर स्वामी को छाड़ी दे मो पिला दीटा धरकी किंती कोन करिबल बहुत कांदिली. जेतेबेले से मोर छेक पड़ी गले साइकिल चेन रे बेकरे बांधी गोटे किलोमीटर तक पदा को घुसड़े नहीं गले.
They tortured him. He had to suffer. So inhumanly they killed him in front of his wife and 2 children.
संध्या 6टा हो गलानी मो छुआ देटा धरी गोटे लोटारे पसी गली.
The first response was prayer. We are not attuned to, we don't retaliate, we don't respond as possibly other communities would do.
After things settled down, a broader range of options became available to Christians. And many of them began to very intentionally engage with their neighbors for the sake of bolstering developing their social capital, expanding their social networks. I think they realized that they needed to reach out more effectively to other groups. So they began doing visits. They'd go to a Muslim service or festival, they'd go to a Hindu service or festival, they'd go to a Buddhist service or festival, and they would invite people from other religions into their own celebrations.
We began to counter the hate ideology. And to do that, we worked on modules. We organized residential training camps. In the last 12 years, more than 15,000-20,000 young people have undergone those camps. This is mainly fighting prejudices, fighting hatred.
After the attack, I was part of peace building process along with the district administration. I went for peace building meetings in different villages. In the youth program, some of the sports competitions we conducted brought the community people together from both the religion, from both the castes, and the biasness and the doubts that were there. Those also could be resolved in the meetings because the youth were not able to talk, the people were not able to talk after the violence. So this gave space to come together and people slowly started talking one another and building relationship.
They tried to make their own religious buildings more ecumenical in spirit, more interfaith in spirit. So instead of building something that could only be a church, they might build a community center that had the symbols of various religions in it.
We are now understanding that the Christian community in India is part of the larger national groups. We are protected by the Constitution, we are protected by the United Nations Charter. India is a signatory. Therefore, there is no harm. In fact, we are duty bound to seek support from everywhere, to raise our voice everywhere.
My overwhelming feeling now, having heard the stories that we heard, having met many of the really most remarkable Christian leaders who face persecution around the world, is not one of discouragement.
Our diversity, our pluralism, our decades of struggle for a democratic secular India is waking up again. Everyone will fight till the last breath.
Bizi ötekileştirmek yerine aslında kendilerinden, kendi vatandaşlarından biri olarak görmeleri ve saymaları büyük önem taşıyor.
We have to work to create a bridge, and this bridge, cannot be built only from one side. We have to work both sides, and to create a bridge of confidence.
People of very different religions and ethnicities and national communities being able to live together in the same society. That's critical to the dream of liberal democracy, the dream of human rights.
It's very hard to see how you're going to get to a society where religious freedoms are central to the legal system. But many people are beginning to see the merits and see that it's the only thing that's going to keep the societies they love from being swept away.
My overwhelming feeling, despite challenges, is that one can have hope and that things can improve, and that integrity, that faithfulness in the long run matter more than anything else.
Acabamos de ver este documentário, este trabalho, que é o resultado de uma investigação da Universidade Americana, com o apoio da Fundação AES, cujo título é Sob a Espada de César, precisamente sobre a resposta cristã à perseguição. E assim chegamos ao fim de mais um Igreja no Mundo, aqui na sua televisão. Despeço-me com amizade, até a próxima semana, se Deus quiser.